A table of contents, this file. Part K, Prohibited Acts, Public Officers and Private Entities, Section 92, 98 to 101. Part L, General/Special Conditions of Contract and Insurance. Part M, by Administration/Force Account. Part N, Misconceptions. Part O, Top Audit Observations. Part P, Documents Checklists, Consolidated. This is File 5 of a 5-file guide covering the full contract life cycle under RA No. 12009, File 1, Award, Eligibility, and Commencement, Parts A, B, C, R, T, File 2, Contract Implementation, Money, Time, and Changes, Parts D, V, S, Q, Y, File 3, Completion, Termination, and Warranty, Parts E, F, U, G, W, Z, File 4, Disputes, Protests, and Reconsideration, Parts H, I, J, 10, next slide. Prohibited Acts, Public Officers and Private Entities. Legal basis, of RA No. 12009, Sections 92, 98, 99, 100, 101. Next slide. Administrative liability of public officers, grounds A to D. This is based on of RA No. 12009, Section 92. It states, without prejudice to the criminal and civil liabilities under RA No. 3019 and other penal laws, any public officer found to have committed any of the following acts shall be administratively liable, even if no criminal prosecution is instituted: A. Opening any sealed bid, or divulging their contents to any prospective bidder prior to the appointed time for the public opening of bids or other documents; B. Delaying, without justifiable cause, the screening for eligibility, opening of bids, evaluation and post-evaluation of bids, and awarding of contracts beyond the prescribed periods of action. C. Unduly influencing or exerting undue pressure on any member of the BAC or any officer or employee of the procuring entity to take a particular bidder, or allowing oneself to be unduly influenced or pressured. D. Splitting of contracts which exceed procedural purchase limits and competitive bidding. Please take note of this specific rule when reviewing procurement documents. Next slide. Administrative liability of public officers, grounds E to G. This is based on of RA No. 12009, Section 92, continued. It states, E. Abusing the exercise of the power of the hope or its duly authorized representative to reject any and all bids with manifest preference to any bidder. F. Simulating procurement eligibility requirements or strategic procurement planning activities. Or G. All other acts or omissions with the intention of not complying with the mandatory provisions of the Act. This is an important requirement to check during a compliance review. Next slide. Jurisdiction. This is based on of RA No. 12009, Section 93. It states, jurisdiction over the offenses defined under this article shall belong to the appropriate courts, according to laws existing at the time of the commission of the offenses. Notwithstanding Article 22 of the Revised Penal Code or any law to the contrary, the administrative, civil, and/or criminal liability of any person, corporation, or any other entity for any unlawful act committed prior to the effectivity of the act shall not be diminished, modified, or affected in any way by its enactment. Government personnel should follow this provision closely to avoid procedural defects. Next slide. Administrative liability of private entities, framework. This is based on of RA No. 12009, Section 98. It states, without prejudice to criminal and civil liabilities under applicable laws. Administrative liability attaches to private entities, such as suppliers, contractors, or consultants, who may be subject to the following penalties. 98. 1. Any appropriate corrective measure, depending on the severity of the offense considering its disadvantages to the GOP, shall be imposed in accordance with the guidelines of the GPPB. 98. 2. Suspension shall be imposed for offenses committed under Section 99 of this The entity is prohibited from participating in any procurement of the procuring entity concerned for a given period. 98. 3. Blacklisting shall be imposed in case offenses occur under sections 100 and 101 of this ER. The entity shall be disqualified from participating in all government procurements for a given period or perpetually, as the case may be. This rule is often a point of focus when verifying compliance with the law. Next slide. Suspension, during procurement, 99. 1. This is based on ER of RA No. 12,009, Section 99, Opening and 99. 1. It states, the Hope shall impose the penalty of suspension for 1 year for the first offense, and suspension of 2 years for the second offense. For any of the following offenses, 99. 1. During procurement, a. Causing the delay, without justifiable cause, of the screening for eligibility, opening of bids, evaluation, and post-evaluation of bids. And awarding of contracts, b. Refusing to clarify or validate in writing its bid during post-qualification within 7 calendar days from receipt of the request. C. Withdrawing a bid, or refusing to accept an award, or refusing or failing to enter into contract without justifiable cause, after Hope approval. D. Refusing or failing to post the required performance security within the prescribed time. Or E. For renewal of contracts for regular and recurring services. Refusal to accept the notice of renewal or failure to submit updated documentary requirements without justifiable reason. Keep this requirement in mind, as it directly affects the validity of the transaction. Next slide. Suspension, during contract implementation, 99. 2. This is based on ER of RA No. 12,009, Section 99. 2. It states, 99. 2. During contract implementation, a. Delivering goods with unsatisfactory or inferior quality as may be provided in the contract, b. Poor performance by the consultant, meaning 1. Defective design resulting in substantial corrective works, 2. Failure to deliver critical output due to fault/negligence, 3. Specifying inappropriate/substandard/excessive materials, or 4. Allowing defective workmanship by the winning bidder being supervised, c. Poor performance by the winning bidder. Meaning, 1. Negative slippage of 15% or more within the critical path due entirely to its fault, or 2. Non-compliance of materials/workmanship with approved specifications due to its fault. Moreover, the bid security or the performance security posted by the entity concerned shall also be forfeited. This is a key provision that procurement officers must apply correctly. Next slide. Blacklisting, procurement, or contract implementation, 100. 1. This is based on ER of RA No. 12,009, Section 100, Opening and 100. 1. It states, the Hope may impose the penalty of blacklisting consisting of 1 year prohibition for the first offense, or 2 years prohibition for the second offense for any of the following offenses, 100. 1. During procurement or contract implementation, a. Commission of 3 or more of any of the acts imposed with suspension under Section 99, b. Use of force, fraudulent machinations, coercion, undue influence, or pressure on any BAC member or PE officer/employee, or c. Prima facie unlawful deeds, 1. Corrupt/fraudulent/collusive/coercive practices, 2. Drawing up or using forged documents, or 3. Using adulterated materials/methods. This detail is worth remembering when preparing supporting documents. Next slide. Blacklisting, during procurement, 100. 2. This is based on ER of RA No. 12,009, Section 100. 2. It states, 100. 2. During procurement, a. Collusion between bidders submitting different bids to feign competition. b. Malicious submission of different bids through related entities to create false competition. c. Agreements to refrain from bidding, withdraw bids, or secure undue advantage. d. Failure to disclose relationship, by consanguinity/affinity to the third civil degree, with Hope/BAC/TWG/Secretariat/End-User/Consultants, per Section 81. E. Submission of false beneficial ownership information, f. using another's name to participate, g. submission of false/falsified eligibility documents or bids, or concealment materially altering the outcome, h. unauthorized access to bid contents before opening, 1. documented unsolicited attempts to unduly influence the bidding outcome, or j. schemes that stifle or suppress procurement activity. This provision is frequently checked during document review. Next slide. Blacklisting, during contract implementation, 100. 3. This is based on of RA No. 12,009, Section 100. 3. It states, 100. 3. During contract implementation, a. assigning/subcontracting the contract or substituting key personnel without prior written PE approval. b. willful/deliberate abandonment or non-performance resulting in substantial breach without lawful/just cause, or c. termination of the contract due to default or unlawful acts. Moreover, the bid security or performance security posted shall also be forfeited. Please take note of this specific rule when reviewing procurement documents. Next slide. Blacklisting with perpetual disqualification. This is based on of RA No. 12,009, Section 101. It states, the Hope shall impose blacklisting with perpetual disqualification based on any of the following grounds. A. Commission of a third offense imposed with blacklisting under the Act by the same procuring entity, or a combination of 3. Violations imposed with blacklisting by the procuring entity and other procuring entities, as posted on the GPPB portal. Or b. Failure to comply with the provision on warranty that requires to repair any noted defect or damage to the infrastructure project due to the use of materials of inferior quality within 90 calendar days from the issuance of the order by the Hope to undertake such repairs. Moreover, the bid security or the performance security posted by the entity concerned shall be forfeited. This is an important requirement to check during a compliance review. Next slide. The three-tier penalty structure for private entities, consolidated. Tier 1, corrective measures, Section 98. 1. Fines, corrective action plans, probation, performance improvement plans, mandatory training. Proportionate to severity, does not disqualify the entity from bidding. Tier 2, suspension, Section 99. 1 year, first offense, /2 years, second offense, disqualifies the entity from that procuring entity's procurements specifically, for the offenses enumerated in 99. 1 to 99. 2. Tier 3, blacklisting, Section 100 to 101. 1 year/2 years/perpetual, disqualifies the entity from all government procurement nationwide. Triggered by 3+ suspension level offenses, force/fraud/collusion, prima facie unlawful acts, 100. 1. Procurement stage integrity violations, 100. 2. Contract implementation stage violations, 100. 3. Or, for perpetual disqualification, a third blacklisting offense or failure to complete ordered structural defect repairs within 90 days, Section 101. Next slide. Why this matters, the public/private parallel. Section 92, public officers, and Sections 98 to 101, private entities, are structured as two sides of the same accountability framework. Nearly every prohibited act on the public officer side, undue delay, undue influence, contract splitting, has a direct counterpart prohibited act on the private entity side. A single corrupt transaction, for example, a BAC member unduly favoring one bidder, typically implicates both a Section 92(c) violation by the officer and a Section 100. 2.1 violation by the bidder who solicited or benefited from the influence. Next slide. General/special conditions of contract and insurance. An important note of what the does, and does not, say. Next slide. What the actually says about GCC/SCC. This is based on of RA No. 12,009, Section 47. 1. L. It states, the requires that bidding documents include a form of contract, and general and special conditions of contract. This is Section 47. 1. L. One item in the enumerated list of 13 required bidding documents components. Beyond requiring that GCC/SCC exist as part of the bidding documents, the ER text itself does not spell out their substantive content. Government personnel should follow this provision closely to avoid procedural defects. Next slide. What the ER actually says about insurance. This is based on ER of RA No. 12009, Section 71. 1. 6. It states, Section 71. 1. 6 lists insurance as item, K, among a set of topics for other aspects of contract implementation, and states plainly, the rules and regulations for the other aspects of contract implementation shall be included in the manuals to be issued by the GPPB, such as, but not limited to, the following. K. Insurance. The ER explicitly defers the substantive rules on insurance to a separate manual GPPB is to issue. It does not itself contain insurance provisions, percentages, or requirements. The specific term contractors all risk insurance, car insurance, does not appear anywhere in the ER text reviewed for this reference. This rule is often a point of focus when verifying compliance with the law. Next slide. The important note, and a recommendation. Procurement officers and auditors should refer to the applicable Government Procurement Policy Board issuances and the standard bidding documents for the specific procedures on this topic. Next slide. By administration/force account. How the concepts in this reference apply, and do not apply, when government builds with its own personnel. Next slide. How award, termination, and protest concepts apply. By administration, a term synonymous with force account, per GPPB Resolution No. 018-2006, Section 2. 1. Is the procedure by which an infrastructure project is built using the implementing agency's own personnel, rather than through a hired contractor. None of Parts A through K in this reference, notice, and execution of award, performance security, termination, warranty, protests, or the prohibited acts under Sections 92/98 to 101, apply to the labor component of a by administration project, because there is no bidder, no contractor, and no contract in the Section 66/71/83 cents for that specific component. However, if a by administration project's materials, tools, or equipment are procured through competitive bidding, as GPPB Resolution No. 018-2006, Section 3. 5 requires, procurement of tools and construction equipment shall be subject to the rules on public bidding. Then that specific contract is fully subject to every rule in this reference, award, Part A, performance security, Part B, termination, Parts E to F, warranty, Part G, and the prohibited acts framework, Part K, exactly as for any other government contract. Next slide. The same important note, carried forward. Procurement officers and auditors should refer to the applicable Government Procurement Policy Board issuances and the standard bidding documents for the specific procedures on this topic. Next slide. Misconceptions. 10 commonly held but legally inaccurate beliefs about prohibited acts, GCC/SCC and insurance, and by administration, corrected against the accurate IRR. Next slide. On whether criminal prosecution is required. A common misconception is this: a public officer cannot be held administratively liable for a prohibited act unless a criminal case is also filed and proven against them. The correct rule is as follows. Section 92 states plainly that administrative liability attaches even if no criminal prosecution is instituted. The two tracks are independent of each other. Next slide. On the 3 penalty tiers being interchangeable. A common misconception is this: the hope can freely choose among corrective measures, suspension, or blacklisting for a private entity, regardless of how serious the offense is. The correct rule is as follows. Sections 98. 1 to 98. 3 tie each tier to specific, listed categories of offense. Corrective measures are proportionate to severity generally, suspension is reserved for the Section 99 list, and blacklisting for the Section 100 to 101 list. They are not freely interchangeable. Next slide. On suspension and blacklisting being the same penalty. A common misconception is this: suspension and blacklisting are just 2 names for the same penalty. The correct rule is as follows: they are legally distinct tiers. Suspension, Section 99, bars an entity from that one procuring entity's procurements. Blacklisting, Section 100 to 101, bars the entity from all government procurement nationwide, and can escalate to perpetual disqualification. Next slide. On GCC/SCC being optional. A common misconception is this: the general and special conditions of contract are optional attachments a procuring entity may choose to include or leave out. The correct rule is as follows: Section 47. 1. L. lists form of contract, and general and special conditions of contract as one of the mandatory, required components of the bidding documents, not an optional attachment. Next slide. On contractors' all-risk insurance. A common misconception is this: comprehensive/contractors' all-risk insurance is an mandated requirement with a specific percentage, like performance security. The correct rule is as follows: it is not found anywhere in the text under that name. Insurance is explicitly deferred by Section 71. 1. 6. K. to a separate GPPB manual, treating a car insurance clause as carrying the same statutory weight as performance security, Section 68, is not accurate. Next slide. On by administration bypassing procurement rules entirely. A common misconception is this: projects done by administration or force account are completely outside government procurement rules. The correct rule is as follows: only the labor component is outside the Section 66/71/83 contract framework. Materials, tools, and construction equipment procured for a by administration project remain subject to competitive bidding, per GPPB Resolution No. 018/2006, Section 3. 5. Next slide. On what triggers perpetual disqualification. A common misconception is this: perpetual disqualification can only happen after 3 separate blacklisting offenses. The correct rule is as follows: Section 101 sets out 2 independent triggers: A. a third blacklisting offense across procuring entities, or B. failure to complete an ordered structural defect repair within the 90 calendar day window. The second is a single instance trigger, not a repeat offense one. Next slide. On prohibited acts implicating only one side. A common misconception is this: a corrupt or collusive transaction only implicates the public officer involved, not the private bidder who benefited from it. The correct rule is as follows: Section 92, public officers, and Sections 98 to 101, private entities, are structured as 2 sides of the same accountability framework. A single corrupt transaction typically implicates a Section 92 violation by the officer and a corresponding Section 102 violation by the bidder. Next slide. On GPPB portal posting being a courtesy. A common misconception is this: posting a blacklisting decision on the GPPB portal is a courtesy notification, not a strict compliance requirement. The correct rule is as follows: portal posting is what gives blacklisting its nationwide effect. It is how other procuring entities learn an entity is disqualified. Without it, a blacklisted entity can continue bidding elsewhere undetected, defeating the entire purpose of the penalty. Next slide. On which body has jurisdiction over prohibited acts. A common misconception is this: COA has exclusive jurisdiction over all prohibited acts cases arising under Sections 92 to 93. The correct rule is as follows: Section 93 vests jurisdiction over these offenses in the appropriate courts, according to laws existing at the time of the commission of the offenses, not COA exclusively. COA's own audit and disallowance jurisdiction runs as a separate, parallel track. Next slide. Audit observations. 20 recurring compliance gaps in prohibited acts, GCC/SCC and insurance, and by administration, accurate against the provisions each one cites. Next slide. Prohibited acts by public officers. 1. A public officer's Section 92 violation prosecuted only criminally, with no separate administrative case filed, despite the explicit "even if no criminal prosecution is instituted" standard. 2. Contract splitting, Section 92, D, not investigated despite multiple same-quarter purchases from the same supplier structured to stay under competitive bidding thresholds. 3. Undue delay in eligibility screening, bid opening, evaluation, or award, Section 92(b), not investigated as a possible administrative violation despite documented unexplained gaps against the prescribed periods of action. 4. A hope's rejection of bids with manifest preference to a particular bidder, Section 92(e), not flagged, despite the rejection lacking any of the 3 Section 70 grounds. 5. Simulated eligibility requirements or procurement planning, Section 92(f), not investigated despite specifications that appear tailored to a single, pre-identified supplier. 6. Jurisdiction over an alleged Section 92 violation rooted to COA alone, without referral to the appropriate courts as Section 93 actually requires. 7. Administrative, civil, or criminal liability for an act committed before RA No. 12,009's effectivity treated as extinguished by the new law, contrary to Section 93's express non-diminishment rule. Next slide. Prohibited acts by private entities. 8. A corrective measure imposed under Section 98. 1. For an offense that actually falls within the Section 99 suspension list, understating the appropriate penalty tier. 9. A suspension penalty imposed for an offense that in fact meets the Section 100 blacklisting threshold, e.g. 3 or more suspension level offenses, understating the appropriate penalty. 10. Blacklisting order not posted to the GPPB portal within the required window, leaving other procuring entities unaware of the disqualification. 11. A blacklisted entity found participating in a different procuring entity's bidding during its disqualification period, undetected because of missing or delayed portal posting. 12. Perpetual disqualification not imposed despite a documented third blacklisting offense across procuring entities, Section 101(a). 13. Perpetual disqualification not imposed despite failure to complete an ordered structural defect repair within the 90 calendar day window, Section 101(b). 14. Bid security or performance security not forfeited alongside a blacklisting or suspension order, contrary to the express forfeiture language in Sections 99 to 101. Next slide. GCC/SCC, insurance, and by administration. 15. General and special conditions of contract entirely absent from the bidding documents, contrary to the mandatory component listed in Section 47. 1. L. 16. A contract's insurance requirement cited to a specific section or percentage that does not actually appear anywhere in the text. 17. A contractor's all-risk insurance clause enforced without reference to the actual GPPB contract implementation manual that is supposed to govern it under Section 71. 1. 6. K. 18. A by administration project's materials, tools, or construction equipment procured without competitive bidding, contrary to GPPB Resolution No. 018-2006, Section 3. 5. 19. Notice and hearing documentation under Section 104 not on file before a suspension or blacklisting decision was issued. 20. More than one request for reconsideration entertained in a blacklisting case, contrary to the explicit only one rule, Section 104. 1. C. Next slide. Documents checklists, consolidated. Every checklist in this reference, gathered by stage, for quick reference during fieldwork. Next slide. Award stage and termination stage, cross-reference. Award stage, see Part A. 6. From the BAC to the HOPE, resolution, abstract of bids, POW/cost estimates, budget authorization, other pertinent documents. From the winning bidder to the procuring entity, JVA if applicable, PCAB license/SEC registration where applicable, performance security, signed contract. Termination stage, see Part F. 3. Verified report through CTRC recommendation, including the notice to terminate, the verified position paper, any rescission of notice, the HOPE's written decision, and For takeover, the negotiated procurement documentation under Section 35, C. Next slide. Protest stage, cross-reference. Protest stage, see Part I. 4. Request for reconsideration through proof of protest fee payment, including the BAC's denial resolution, the verified position paper with all 8 required elements, the affidavit of verification, and the sworn certification of no other pending action. Next slide. Warranty stage. Warranty security, goods, retention money or bank guarantee, 1 to 5% of progress payment / contract price, infrastructure, per Section 90. 2. 3. C. Schedule. Certificate of final acceptance, the starting point for all warranty period calculations. For infrastructure, documented tracking of the applicable structural defect liability period, February 5th, 15 years depending on structure classification. Repair order and proof of compliance within 90 calendar days, where a defect is identified, Section 90. 2. 2a. Non-compliance risk, forfeiture of performance security plus perpetual blacklisting exposure under Section 101b. Next slide. Prohibited acts / sanctions stage. For public officers, notice, evidence supporting the Section 92a, 2g, allegation, and referral to the appropriate court per Section 93. For private entities, notice and hearing documentation, BAC resolution recommending the penalty, Hope decision, within 15 days. Request for reconsideration if filed, within 3 days, resolved within 7, only 1 allowed, and GPPB portal posting proof, within 7 days of the order. Next slide. Deadlines, delays, and technicalities. The sanctions framework in Part K is only as strong as the timeliness of its own notices, hearings, and postings. Next slide. Delayed notice and hearing before a suspension or blacklisting decision. A suspension or blacklisting decision issued without the notice and hearing sequence properly documented and completed first is vulnerable to challenge on due process grounds alone, regardless of how well-founded the underlying offense actually is. Treat the absence of a documented notice and hearing record as a defect in the sanction itself, not a separate, lesser issue. Next slide. Delayed GPPB portal posting of a blacklisting order. Blacklisting only achieves its intended nationwide effect once it is posted to the GPPB portal. Other procuring entities have no way of knowing an entity is disqualified until that posting happens. A delay here is not a clerical afterthought, it is a window during which a blacklisted entity can continue winning contracts elsewhere in government, undetected. Next slide. Delayed compliance with a corrective action plan. A corrective measure imposed under Section 98. 1 typically comes with its own compliance timeline. Treating that timeline loosely, without escalating to suspension or blacklisting when the corrective plan itself is not honored on schedule, undermines the entire graduated 3-tier penalty structure the ER is built on, Part K. 7. Next slide. As Part M. 2 already flags honestly, GPPB Resolution No. 018-2006 was issued under the old law. Any by administration project relying on that resolution's specific mechanics, rather than on the RA No. 12,009 confirmed negotiated procurement provisions it connects to, carries a documentation risk. If challenged, the file needs to show which specific current authority, not just institutional habit, justified the approach taken. Next slide. End of prohibited acts, contract terms, and reference. Every quotation in this file is drawn directly from the text of the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act No. 12,009, cross-checked section by section. Part L explicitly flags what the ER does not say about GCC/SCC and insurance, rather than fabricating content. Award, eligibility, and commencement, contract implementation, money, time, and changes, completion, termination, and warranty, and disputes, protests, and reconsideration complete this references coverage of the contract life cycle. This concludes this audio guide. Thank you for listening. Table of contents,